That was without a doubt the best partner direct we have ever gotten. Just hands down. It was so good. I mean, it was so good. They even threw in some first party stuff in there. That was weird. That was really surprising. But no, this was the best partner direct Nintendo has ever put out. And, there were many opinions about this Nintendo Direct. And yet I feel like Final Fantasy Resonance is being sadly overlooked. I don't know, maybe among the Final Fantasy fan community, there's probably more people talking about it, but at least just in my circles, I feel like Final Fantasy Resonance is a bigger deal than I am seeing expressed elsewhere. It's funny because, Square Enix has done a lot of HD 2D games, kind of like really a lot. Like you might even argue too many, between like all the Octopath games, and we've had other like remakes and stuff. Like it really is a lot. JRPG fans who are into the HD 2D thing, I know not everyone is, but I think it's pretty darn cool. Anyone who's into that, they got a lot to eat. Over the last however many years, like there have been plenty of options. So seeing another one revealed in a Nintendo Direct, like for a moment, there's like it's just like, okay, yeah, it's another one of these. Even if I think the style is cool, even if all of these games look like they've basically all been really, really good, there is like sort of an element for just a second that's just like, okay, like we know what we're getting into. We know what this is. And yet here, it was really striking for two reasons. One, it was not long before it was just like, wait a minute. This looks like I think they all look pretty good, but this one looks just visually really good. I'll talk more about how I think it looks in a minute, but the point is that kind of grabbed me. And then realizing it's like, wait a minute. This isn't a remake? This isn't a remake of Final Fantasy Resonance? This is a new game. This is a new Final Fantasy game in the HD 2D style. And I just think that's a really, really big deal. I mean, okay, well, it's not even just the fact that it's HD 2D. This is the first turn-based Final Fantasy game in, decades. I don't know exactly when you could say it stopped. Final Fantasy X was, really traditional, but then X-2 brought in, kind of some real-time elements. I would argue that was still turn-based. And then I never played 12. I want to say that was when it kind of started to verge more into action territory. I'm really not 100% sure, but, for the most part, when you're talking mainline original Final Fantasies, decades, basically some decades since we've gotten a new Final Fantasy game with turn-based combat. And so, I don't know. Yeah, again, I think that's a really big deal. And it's this is something that I'm probably not alone in that I have been hoping for something like this. Anytime you take a long-running series and it keeps evolving, and it gets bigger and bigger, and the graphics get fancier, and you move further and further away from turn-based combat. It's more real-time, it's more action. And maybe that's a good thing for the series. You're reaching a broader audience. Maybe the series has even grown because of that, but you're always leaving behind those original fans who are like, this isn't even the same thing anymore. It's just not even almost the same experience. The gameplay is completely different. It's just what about them? You really are leaving behind a good number of customers. Maybe not as many, they are now basically the minority compared to everybody else. But it is still now an underserved market. And I've felt this way about Pokemon. The mainline games are still turn-based. The Legends games are the one now it's kind of dipping into real time. And they want to have room to experiment with this stuff. But anytime you move away from that turn-based format, you're going to leave people behind, especially when you're looking at a really, really big audience. And so just for the longest time now, I don't think I'm alone here in just being all right, Pokemon, have these big home console games. It's not handheld anymore. Now they're home console and they're big. But why don't you just also make some pixel graphics? Just make some smaller ones. Go back to the style of the Game Boy Advance games or the DS games. Just people will buy it no matter what. There is a massive audience out there that is playing like ROM hacks and fan games in this old style because people still love this. So like, why would you not deliver some very, just much more traditional, smaller scale pixel art games? And you can cater to that audience that doesn't like that Pokemon became this big 3D thing and now they're breaking away from the turn-based combat and all that stuff. Like, just give us the classic experience. You would still sell millions of units. And these games would cost a fraction of the price. Just a teensy tiny little, just a blip, a fraction. It's just money on the table. They're just leaving it on the table. So it is so cool to me to see Final Fantasy finally getting it. Why are you not serving that percentage of the audience that doesn't like where the series went and they remember playing the classic games, they like the turn-based combat, they like the pixel graphics? So like, yeah, I mean, any game is going to cost a lot of money. These HD 2D games, you know, they still probably cost a good bit to produce, to develop. But yeah, again, compared to the big AAA 3D ones that just take years and years to develop, just a fraction of a fraction. So why not make a brand new Final Fantasy? Not a remake, but a brand new one. But in this little style, this much more low budget kind of style with turn-based combat. And it's just so cool to see that they're finally doing it. It is so cool to see. Now, I know a lot of you may be saying right now, Arlo, you fool, you blind fool. This is not a brand new game. This is just a port or a remake of Brave Exvius, which was a mobile game. No, that was just a nasty mobile gacha game. You've been fooled. And to that I say, you're only partially right. Apparently Square Enix did some like preview events with various publications. So when this game was revealed in the Direct, we had a bunch of like previews coming out from these publications. Like they spent like hours with the game. They got a bunch of info on the game. And apparently it is sort of based on Brave Exvius. It uses that as kind of like a foundation. But it's not a port, and it's not even a direct remake. It just uses a lot of the same ideas, but builds those ideas into what is actually a completely brand new game, a fully fledged game, and of course, like, a console game, not a gacha game, not a mobile game. Like, it's the real deal. Apparently, it's even a pretty big game. They were saying it could be like 30 to 40 hours to roll credits, about twice as much if you want to 100% the game. So, like, this is a fully fledged Final Fantasy game with pixel graphics, with turn-based combat, a brand new entry. I just think that's so cool. And to circle back around to the visuals, yeah, again, I know HD 2D is like a little bit divisive. I don't know if it's one of those things where it feels more divisive than it is because I see so many people piping up to say they don't like it, but that could be like a vocal minority kind of thing. I'm really not sure. Personally, I think it looks great. I think I can understand where people are coming from when they're not really big fans of it. It is like, even here in this trailer, when there's too much 3D going on, when the environments are like too obviously 3D and you put the sprites in there, it gets a little bit more awkward. But overall, I think it looks good. And anytime you have this like multi-layered pixel art thing, I think it's amazing. And out of all the HD 2D games that we have gotten so far, I think this has to be the most beautiful. Like, they really stepped up their game here. Some of these visuals they're just incredible. Like, just like lavish, detailed images, so beautifully animated. It's not like completely consistent. There's like a couple times where they use like regular old like squash and stretch like tweening of the model. That doesn't look nearly as good as when it's like actually fluidly animated with unique frames or whatever. But for the most part, I think this is some of the most gorgeous pixel art I've ever seen. You know, when you put so much detail into it and then you add in all of like the lighting and the effects. Again, when it looks too 3D, it's not quite as good, but when they layer it all together very expertly to make it look like it is mostly pixel art, but it's just got this depth to it, this beauty. It's amazing. I think it's absolutely amazing. If there is one thing about this that I'm not a big fan of, I think it's probably kind of a remnant, a holdover from the original version, Brave Exvius. It's that this game features visions. So like from every major Final Fantasy, or like every mainline Final Fantasy, there's like a character that you get to like summon or something in some way. I'm not usually a fan of that kind of thing. It's just like, I don't know, nostalgia pandering. It's not always necessarily just a bad thing. It's usually probably good. Fans probably like it. I think in this case, it's just a bit of a bummer because this is, you know, again, the first turn-based classic style Final Fantasy in however many years. So feeling like you gotta lean on the old characters, feeling like you gotta pump in the nostalgia. It's kind of, like let it be its own game, you know, let it be its own brand, like treat it like a real mainline entry in the Final Fantasy series. So yeah, not quite a fan of that. Again, I think that's, it's from back, you know, the original version when it was a gacha game and you could like buy or pull other characters or whatever. I don't know. I guess they figured they wanted to bring them in, and then people in the previews were even saying that when you summon them, it's like a CG, like a short CG cutscene, and it just really does not mesh with the rest of the visual style. So that's a little bit weird, but I don't know. If this game does well enough, then maybe they'll make more. I would love to see this turned into its own series. I would love to see them just continue to make classic style Final Fantasy games. You know, maybe they won't feel like they need to lean on the old characters as much. Maybe it'll sell well enough. And on that note, I'm really incredibly curious to see how well this game sells, because all of the other HD 2D games up to this point, like I don't have the sales numbers in front of me, but I feel like they all sell like kind of okay, you know, like 1 or 2 million each. You know, all the Octopath games, and then I guess I don't know how Final Fantasy Tactics sold, but I know that with a remake, you're always going to get like that part of the audience that's like, well, I already own the original. I don't want to spend money on a remake. But this right here, 1, is an original game, and 2, a Final Fantasy game. Final Fantasy is a very big series with a very, very big fan base, and I am just so curious to see how that is reflected in the sales. I don't know, I could potentially see it selling just about the same as all the other HD 2D games, maybe, but I could just as easily see it selling a good amount more than that. I mean, it's a Final Fantasy game. And, you know, if I'm right, if I have been right this whole time, that a classic style Final Fantasy game would do well, it would do well to serve that chunk of the audience, then, I don't know, it'd be fun to see that was correct. It would be fun to see that there are a lot of people who do appreciate this kind of game, and yeah, to have confidence that we may get more in the future. And then, if this game does well enough, then we can move on to the next hope, the next wish. And that is, even better, for a Final Fantasy game with PS1 graphics. That's the one. That's the one I'm really waiting for. Video game visuals peaked with Final Fantasy IX.